clock doesn't work. The assessed you were alive.
I just want to make
We don't want to wait much longer. I did give 5 more minutes for some people to join us on out in TV land. And I do have a short message for those people before we start. But you guys can listen while you're at it.
Okay.
No, that's awkward. You can sit there.
Do you want us to, we can pull chairs together?
Yeah.
That would be so cute. Or you can sit in the throne.
We just have.
We're trying to make it dignified.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Classy getting photos. And you can't do better than this room for classy. Wow. So before we started, I did want to give a brief message to the people in TV land that because we have set this up as more as a conference setting in the Zoom world, that though you can watch and participate visually, your microphones are not open, so you can't talk to us or to Dr. Aton through the Zoom with your microphone. But we encourage everybody that's watching through the internet to type a message for Dr. Aton in the chat if you want to, and as we get near the end of the evening, we'll share that with him. And then if you want to congratulate him in a more personal way, you can call him on the old, I don't know if you remember these. You could just like call him and talk to him with this, if you have one. But we're really grateful for everybody who's here in this crazy COVID time, and super grateful to Ray, who really has gone out of her way to really make a statement by a student to a faculty member, which is, to me, is very meaningful and very moving, because awesome teachers like Dr. Aton teach for many years. We may not, somebody may say how many it really was at one time, but he's been here a long time. And I think, and Ray is going to speak for herself, but she is representing hundreds of students that Dr. Aton has touched and moved and changed their lives in his time here. So it's super exciting for the library. Oh, my name is Matt Nickerson. I'm the director of the library. I didn't realize it was the official start. I really just wanted to tell the folks back home that they could chat with, right in the chat, so that you could still be a part of it that way. That's all I was doing, but I guess I'll start it officially now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Nickerson. I'm the Associate Dean and Director of the library, and it is our honor to be hosting this event this evening for Dr. Aton as he celebrated for all of his many years of teaching in a very special way. It's a celebration initiated and hosted really by one of his students. And I think that's very important and very moving. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So to start it off, I think what better way to start an academic evening than to have his dean, Dr. Perrine, come up and get things started. This is Dr. Jean Perrine. She is the Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences.
Thank you. Welcome everybody tonight. I think it's the second welcome. Nick did a really good job. Matt did a really good job with the first part. But it is so nice to have the opportunity to celebrate Jim. We all, I think, overwhelmingly would have liked to have done something like this last spring. And we know what we were all not doing last spring. And so it's great to have an opportunity tonight to celebrate Jim. And I would just note that back in late April, I was asked to provide a quote about Jim for the Alumni magazine. And I said that we were going to really miss Jim because he's been such a driving force in the English department for a long time. And that we would certainly miss him and probably be very jealous of all of the great things he was going to be able to start doing that most of the rest of us were going to have to wait on. And I can assure you that I am indeed jealous. I ran into Jim and Carrie a couple weeks ago when Dave Lee was on campus for the Apex talk. And we were chatting a little bit about the hikes and the trips and everything else. And so I am definitely jealous of everything that Jim and Carrie have been doing, and I think that Jim is so deserving of this time, and yet I know he's going to keep busy with scholarship and all those wonderful things. So while he may not be in the building, and we do miss seeing him, we know that he's still working on other things, and he's welcome to come back anytime he wants. So again, I want to thank you all for coming tonight, welcome you to this celebration. It's always so wonderful to celebrate people who are deserving. That is definitely true of what we're doing tonight. And on that note, I'm going to turn things over to Kyle Bishop, who's going to share some information about Jim that maybe you know, maybe you don't know. So.
Very excited about this honor. I'm excited I get to speak. It's so weird that I'm the department chair. Honor Jim. You look at his career. I just did the math in my head. When I came to SUU, he was at the point of his career I'm at now. And he seems so wise and sage. And I don't know if I'm there yet. Goals, career goals. James W. Aton was born in Louisville, Kentucky in 1949 and was educated there in Catholic schools. He received a BA in English from Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama in 1971, an MA in English from the University of Kentucky in 1977, and a PhD in American Literature from Ohio University in 1981. He was professor of English in the Southern Utah University Department of English from 1980 to 2020. He taught classes in writing, mythology, American studies, and continental European literature. Jim was twice a visiting Fulbright Scholar in American Studies, first in 1989-90 at Gadjah Mada University in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and second in 1997-98 at Sichuan University in Chengdu, People's Republic of China. If you wander back into the Levitt Room, you'll be able to peruse Jim's many publications. He's published articles on environmental history in the Georgia Review, Utah Historical Quarterly, Western American Literature, South Dakota Review, and Southwest Art. He has presented the SU Distinguished Faculty Lecturer 4 times, most recently in January 2019. His monograph, John Wesley Powell, appeared as part of the Boise State University's Western Writers Series. His book with Robert S. McPherson, River Flowing from the Sunrise, An Environmental History of the Lower San Juan, was a finalist for the 2000 Utah Book Award in Nonfiction and was awarded the 2000 Norris and Carol Hundley Award for Best Book on Any Historical Subject from the Pacific Coast Branch of the American Historical Association. The River Knows Everything, Desolation Canyon and the Green was with photographer Dan Miller, appeared in May 2009. It was a finalist for the 2009 Utah Book Award in Nonfiction. In January 2010, the University of Utah Press published John Wesley Powell, His Life and Legacy. He has produced 2 films, Jimmy Jones, Red Rock Painter with John M. Smith, and Voices of Desolation Canyon with Jennifer Little. He has received 2 NEH Summer Seminar grants. His book, Jim Jones, The San Blas Years, was published by SUU Press in 2013. His biography, The Art and Life of Jimmy Jones, Landscape Artist of the Canyon Country, appeared in fall 2015 from Gibbs Smith Books. It has won 2 awards, the 2015 Evans Handcart Award for Biography and the 2016 15 Bites Book Award for Art. Jim's most recent book with Jerry D. Spangler, The Crimson Cowboys, The Remarkable Odyssey of the 1931 Claflin Emerson Expedition, won the Don D. and Catherine S. Fowler Prize for Best Book on Anthropology. Jim is married to Carrie L. Trenholm, a fused class artist and formerly the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Endowed Chair of Art Education at SUU. He is the father of Jennifer Aton Peretti, a registered dietitian at Seattle Children's Hospital. She lives in Seattle with her husband Ryan and son Jack. Jim is an avid river runner, skier, hiker, and backpacker. I don't know if it's true, but Casey Bounds tells me that the largest package ever received at SUU was yours. It was a river raft. There was some shock as to the scale of the package. And then just to wrap up, I would like to say that Jim has been such a great role model for me. He's encouraged me in every step of my career. He encouraged me to go back and get my PhD. He encouraged me to write a book. He encouraged me to increase just my professionalism and gave me a lot of confidence to do the things that I've been able to do. And I've been trying to emulate his role model for me because I unfortunately never had the chance to have him as an instructor, but I was able to learn substantially from him during his time here at SU. And so I greatly value our friendship. I would like now to bring up the the impetus for this event, Ray English, one of our great alumni. So Ray, come on up. Thank
I brought my own notes. I found myself trying to think, how am I going to talk about someone who had a very big influence on me when I returned to school as a 35-year-old single mom of 4. Someone whose teaching I took with me, not into academia, but rather into being a private practice psychotherapist. And I'm going to read some things, but this is off the cuff. One of the things, Jim, that you always encouraged us not to do was to engage in presentism. Let us not expect that people back then knew or thought about or understood things the way that we understand them now, so that we can really engage with what was happening then. There is no greater privilege that I have than when I am sitting with someone who is trying to articulate their own story and to understand themselves. And they need for me to not engage in presentism so that they feel their own dignity and human worth and can tell their own story. They need that. I did not learn that at social work school. I did not learn that in the St. Louis Psychoanalytic Institute. I learned it from Jim Aton. I had never heard that word. I didn't understand it. And it allowed me to critically engage with every story that I ever came into contact with, whether it was a human being, whether it was historical, or whether it was fiction, a poetry, a song lyric, or investigating my own self. And I am incredibly grateful for this. So I'm going to say a few things, and then I'm going to give this to you. This was given to me by my 4 daughters for Christmas one year, when my goal was to get a PhD and to study and teach literature. My path changed in 2014 with the death of Michael Brown. I live in St. Louis. Ferguson is about 20 minutes from me. And I decided I wanted to do something that was more directly impactful, one-to-one. And I went to social work school. So this sat on my shelf for such a long time. And when I heard that you were going to be retiring, I thought, I'm going to be there. But then COVID got here ahead of all of us. And there was no being able to be there. And when it looked like we might have some idea about how things could be a little easier, a little managed, a little better, I thought now is the time. And I reached out to Kurt. He talked with Kyle. They put me in touch with Paula, and here we are. And the thing that I know about you is that you are an incredibly generous person. Now, if I gave it directly to you, it might sit on your shelf, just like it did for me. But if we put it here, then it stays in your name, in your honor, for so many people to have access to. And it will stay and be protected and cared for and shared, which I think is true to the spirit of you, okay? So I want to say, I'm gonna check my notes here, that as I thought about this privilege of recognizing Jim, and there's going to be some inside jokes, Hemingway jokes. So I'm sorry if you're going to be a little left out, but I think you'll be able to follow. I initially thought about which Hemingway quote with which Jim is most associated, and there are many, okay? When fearful and overwhelmed and needing to finish an overdue paper, do not worry, you have always written before, and you will write now. He's getting them. When concerned about all the reading required when one studies literature, by the way, my first day of class, I brought the giant Norton anthology for continental literature to you. It was this big. And I raised my hand and I said, do we have to bring this every week to class? And he said, it would be helpful. So when we're concerned about all the reading required, don't read too fast. Okay, this was said to Ernest Hemingway by Sylvia Beach, the owner of Shakespeare and Company, you know, the famous store in Paris, and someone who really cared for Hemingway. And he thought it was important enough to share an immovable feast. When wondering how to write, what to edit from your writing, cut the ornament. Has anyone ever received an email from Jim? No sentence is usually longer than 5 to 7 words. Same thing in his comments on your papers.
I want to tell a brief story about, one of my kids, my oldest one. Of course, every kid has to study American literature in high schools. And years after she graduated, she's now 29, she said, "Oh, I hated Hemingway." And I was like, "Oh, sacrilege." And I said, "Why did you hate him?" She said, "Oh, he was just, I set the camp. The camp was good. We ate." And I said, "Oh, but you remembered him, didn't you?" She was like, "Oh, Mom, you got me." So I'm going to leave any comments, if he has them, about Hemingway to Jim, because he's the authority in this room. And I'm going to write, as I now am writing, because I was typing this, but I'm now speaking, one true sentence, maybe a few more, the truest sentence that I know. And I'm going to write this as straight as I know it. Your genuine enthusiasm in engaging with students in the reading of literature and exploring, writing about nature, encouraging our curiosity, your joy for life extended invitation to us all to do the same, to engage closely to the experiences that we are having, to the stories we're reading and telling, and to bravely do so. Jim Aton, you are a humble, smart, kind, caring, and principled human being and man. And anyone who has the privilege of knowing you and to learn from you knows and agrees with this. Yes? Presenting the Southern Utah University Sherritt Library Special Collections with this first edition of your favorite Hemingway novel is our honor. I do this. I had the resource, but the gift comes from all of us, and I want that to be known and understood. We give it in your name with abiding gratitude that we have the privilege of spending time together with you here. Thank you. I don't know. I didn't look at the, I'm sorry, I got too excited.
Yes, you are next.
Okay.
But just so you know, since they're not here, I would tell you who is also watching, because we've been communicating secretly with the text. So also joining us here, and I don't have all their full names, but he'll know who they are. Dave A., Emily English, Kay Cook and Doug Berger, Randy Aton, Trent Gurney, and Jeff. If you have something to say now, it'd be okay. But if not, you can just call on Paula and make the official transfer. But we'd like to hear what you about your teaching and about, well, not so much as Hemingway, but more about your I'd love to hear a lecture on Hemingway, actually. I'd have to admit that, yes.
Well, I'm not going to give a lecture on Hemingway. So thank you all for those very moving, kind words. I don't know that I deserve all that praise, but as Jake tells Brett at the end of The Sun Also Rises, isn't it pretty to think so? And I'll try to Hemingway this and be brief. Thank you, Ray, for organizing this, putting this all together, and making this incredible donation to SUU of, as you said, my favorite Hemingway book, first edition of The Sun Also Rises. You've been such a great student and devoted friend, and to me since you graduated in 2007, so thank you. And Ray, I might add, was our Literature Student of the Year in 2007 when she graduated. Every fall, we had a majors meeting, and at the end of those meetings, I would always say, the English department is the best department on campus. And I believe that. I believe we have the best teachers, we have the best students. From the time I was hired here in 1980, I was inspired by the example of my senior colleagues and SUU legends, David Lee and Michael Cohen, both in teaching and in scholarship. And I continue to be inspired by my many amazing colleagues in the English department, again, for their creative teaching and for what they were doing in terms of publishing scholarly and creative work. One of those was Kyle Bishop. Another is Kurt Harris. But above all, it was our amazing students. that made the past 40 years such an amazing and grand adventure for me. Each year when English majors graduated, I thought, oh, we can't have as good a class as that. Those students were amazing. And then along would come an Amber Fullwood or a Ray English or a Tim Correa or a Laney Cartwright or a Malcolm Boyack or a Greg Burbank, any of those amazing students that we've had over the years. And I would know that, no, there's no end to this. We're going to continue to get these great students here, and I know we will. For me, the best part of teaching was what happened in the classroom, the magic of the classroom. When we were discussing a poem or a novel or a play or a short story, and then an Amber Fullwood or a Tim Correa would say, well, what about this? What about that? Did you notice this? And I was, oh, these people are so smart. These students are so amazing. My students' mind would just floor me sometime. On a daily basis, they show me new ways of looking at literature. Or similarly, when I read some of their papers of a Laney or a Malcolm, and I would just think, oh my God, these students are so much smarter than me. They write so much better than I did when I was a senior or an undergraduate. I hope I can just not mess it up. I hope I can just encourage them. So whatever I gave to this university and whatever I gave to students, particularly English majors over the last 40 years, I got so much more in return. It was the honor and privilege of my life to be your teacher. So I thank you. Thank you very much. Continue this now. Paul Mitchell,
We will take good care of it.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Dr. Aton, and thank you for everyone for being here, and especially to Ray, thank you.
My pleasure.
And I'm also close to retirement, and I can only hope that I'll be backpacking like Jim in a few years. But I've had a goal here for a long time, and I'm a newly appointed associate dean. And one of my goals to accomplish before I leave in a certain number of years is to create an exhibit case that will be outside of special collections for some of our most treasured items. So that when students, faculty, and patrons come to the library, they don't have to come here and ask for the vault to be open so that we can take out a sacred text so they can see it. That's not a way to inspire students. So as I gather the money and make my pitch for this exhibit space, it has to be very safe, it has to be very protected from the outside people. Bulletproof glass, humidity protected. And the pride of place in that case will certainly be a Shakespeare fourth folio that we have, right? Cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's great, and we're a Shakespeare university, but equally pride of place in that case, it will rotate, it may be right next to Shakespeare, will be this book donated by Ray and representing many students, but especially Ray. It's just as important at a place like SUU to have a first edition inspiring book donated by a student in honor of a faculty as it is to have a $200,000 Shakespeare book, and they will be together in that case if my dream comes true. Thank you all for being here. And if you have a message for Jim, please come and talk to him. I think some of the chat people may send us a message for you as we're closing up, and if they do, we'll make sure you get that message as well. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You're welcome to stay as long as you would like, but be sure to take some refreshments outside the door when you leave. But you're welcome to stay here as long as you would like.
Sure, yeah.
Can I take a photo?
Yeah, if my students
And
come up.
Jennifer Parriani, Jordan Boggs.
Okay, that's my daughter. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Jack. Love you.
Yeah, if I could have all the students come up, I would. And where you feel most comfortable.
We gotta get right.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay.
That's awesome.